this off, right?
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Hello and welcome to the City Club of Cleveland. I am Meryl Johnson, so proud to have retired from the Cleveland Metropolitan School District after teaching for 40 years. Today's panel discussion is a unique one. You'll hear from youth who worked within a collaborative of educators and university students to study and address educational challenges. School climate, standardized testing, transition into high school. These are all topics educators and policymakers have discussed and debated for years. In these discussions, we often hear the voice of teachers, administrators, academics, and policymakers. Whose voice usually goes unheard in these discussions? I beg your pardon? Anyone? Students, of course. And that's why we have them here today. In a noteworthy collaboration between Cleveland State University and youth from the Cleveland Metropolitan School District, these student researchers worked side by side with educators to study a variety of topics, including opportunities and constraints of K-8 schools, school closures, and the ninth grade experience. The youth brought knowledge of their own personal experiences, which was then studied in relation to policy, local institutions, and community history. Today, you will hear the results of that research and its potential implications. The individuals comprising our panel include La-Shaune Gullatt, graduate of Glenville High School, who will be entering Bowling Green State University this fall. Jacqueline Bell, La-Shaune's principal at Glenville, said he is studious and serious about everything. He is a critical thinker who provokes thought from others when trying to get to the core of a conversation. Michael Sterritt, who is attending New Tech West. Aaron Frew, Michael's principal, said he has shown tremendous growth in spite of some personal challenges. He cares passionately about the research and the effect it can have on improving the school environment for all students. Jayme Thomas, a graduate from the now closed East High School, is a student at Cuyahoga Community College and a member of City Year, which happens to be my favorite service organization in Cleveland. Just had to put a little plug for City Year. Jayme reminds me of Harriet Tubman because of her perseverance. This research project started in 2010 when East High closed, and Jayme has been with the project all that time, trying to make life better for her people. Taylor Watson, senior at James Ford Rhodes High School. Mr. Paul Lockhart, Taylor's teacher, said Taylor was an integral part of the ACE, or ACE, Architecture, Construction, and Engineering team from Rhodes. She possessed the intellectual ability to revise the team's budget at the last minute when the specs were changed. I bet some of you out there would hire Taylor in a heartbeat, right? Joining them on stage is Carly Evans, teacher at Charles F. Brush High School and doctoral student in Cleveland State University's Urban Education Program. Dr. Ann Galletta, a faculty member in Cleveland State University's Urban Education Ph.D. program in the College of Education and Human Services, will be our moderator. Ladies and gentlemen, members and friends of the City Club, please join me in welcoming this panel to the Citadel of Free Speech.
Thank you very much. In addition to our panelists, there are several other members of the team who are present. Allison Bessesi is doing our PowerPoint and did a tremendous role in analyzing the data with us. And Dr. Regina Gerardo Garcia is also here and who had a key role in the analysis of the data as well. Meryl Johnson, who traveled with us to Chicago and presented last year and has been a tremendous advocate for the project. We're building on earlier work. I'd like to ask anyone who had an involvement with the Participatory Action Project in the past that we then built on to get here, could you stand just for a quick minute? These are individuals that have had some role in the past. These are individuals who would be up here, but they couldn't accommodate us all, so.
Stage is too short.
Support from Cleveland State University and the College of Education, particularly the support of Abu Nassara and Dennis DiCulo from the Center of Educational Technology. There are many projects that involve engaged learning at CSU. Our project represents research from this collective and does not claim to represent other projects or views within the university. In terms of our practice of critical participatory action research, we owe much gratitude to the theoretical and methodological underpinnings of the Public Science Project in New York at the Graduate Center, City University of New York. So Taylor's going to start us off talking about what we did in participatory action research.
Participatory action research is a way to approach research in an action-oriented way. It is very much about engaging the public. Those who do participate bring many aspects to the table, seeing as they all come with different experiences and very diverse backgrounds. Analysis data situates individuals within the context of history, policy, and local conditions. The purpose of our Lives in Transition survey was to learn about the 9th grade experience in the district schools. So we targeted the key issues that we found in our survey data, and that is what we've brought for you here today. These are the schools that we attend, and we are invested in making them better. The 4 of us here today represent a much larger group of students. We were 25 students from 7 different CMSD schools. And we first came together in the fall of 2012. When we came together, we viewed a survey that was made by a previous group of students on SurveyMonkey. The survey covered issues such as transportation, student and teacher relationships, and safety in and around the school. Then we found out that we'd be giving this survey to the 9th graders in our schools to find out about their transition into high school. We promised these 9th graders that they would be the very first ones to hear the results, because so often we have to take surveys and never hear anything about them again. So that's what we did. In 2013, we spent a large portion of the year analyzing the data and looking at the key themes that we found across the schools. When we reported back to our 9th graders, as we promised, we gave them a sheet to fill out their thoughts and comments during the presentation to provoke a discussion afterwards. Many of you saw as I handed you these sheets, and I told you that we'd be filling them out. So you have similar sheets, and we ask that you would fill them out so that we can engage in a panel and audience discussion afterwards. So these are the key themes that we have covered in our data and our survey, and I will now hand it over to La-Shaune to go over the demographics of the students who took our survey.
259 9th grade students from 7 district high schools, including large comprehensive schools and several more recently established small schools, completed the survey. East Technical, Glenville, John Adams, New Tech East, New Tech West, Rhodes, and Washington Park Boulevard. The demographics of the 9th grade students who participated in the survey are fairly reflective of the demographics of the district. There are limitations to the survey results, which represents 6.75% of all 9th grade students. However, the current sample size does allow us to make inferences about the entire 9th grade population with 90% confidence intervals. Furthermore, our collective of 25 youth from the 7 schools, a community member, and CSU students and faculty have analyzed the data and believe that there are compelling themes to spark a discussion on the challenges and opportunities on youth experiences.
In addition to demographics, La-Shaune will talk now about the first theme, which is transportation.
There are 3 primary ways students get to schools. They get driven to school, they walk, or they take the RTA bus. Because 1/3 of the students taking the survey reported taking the RTA bus to school, we're interested in their experience. At the time of the survey, the district's policy for distributing RTA bus tickets was that students had to live 3 or more miles away from their school. A shuttle bus service was available, but not to all high schools. Some students expressed concern about their district's transportation policies. Here are some of their voices.
Even though I might only live 2 miles away, it is still a long walk. My parent does not have the time to take me to school. And sometimes our car breaks down.
I was slightly scared to ride the RTA because I had never done that before. It was a new transition.
I actually like taking the bus, but sometimes it takes too long.
The district's transportation policy changed in January 2014. The policy of permitting RTA bus passes for students living a half a mile or more addressed many of the problems the 9th grade students voiced. Given the students' concerns, this was a very positive step, and we would like to recognize CEO Eric Gordon for his leadership in the issue. Issues remain nonetheless in terms of safety, getting to school on time, and crowded buses taking students to school or passing them when they're full. We creatively explored these issues through poetry and film, and to emphasize this, we'd like to share a brief video with you.
We're not going to share a brief video with you. I'm getting a signal from Allison. Okay. I will tell you a little bit about this video. It was created by students in East Tech High School, and it was about some of the experiences that young women have traveling the RTA and some of the struggles that they face traveling alone, and thinking about what are they wearing, will they face harassment, could they wear something very nice to school on that particular day like they wanted to, but maybe they won't because of the kind of exchanges that might occur on public transportation. That is a creative product that each group of students did when they went back to the 9th graders to present the data. They planned something like poetry or a video, and they engaged the 9th graders in that theme when they were reporting back through a creative product. I think the absence of the video is because when I email people when we've been working, I take the video out because it's too big, and I think what we've been working with on our slides is absent this big video. It's very, very good, and we will make it available. It's 2 minutes, it's a public service announcement, very effective. Jayme is going to talk now about the issue of mobility.
Yeah. As a CMSD student, I changed schools a whole lot. It affected a lot of areas of my life that I feel like I really can't give back. My academics suffered, my social relationships suffered, and my overall sense of belonging as far as the school. I feel like for some students, school closure and just changing schools a lot has made them drop out, and it's contributing to the dropout rate. And for me, I feel like it's made me resilient and become a little more aware of things that could happen and not become so affected by it. But nonetheless, some students aren't as resilient, and it makes the numbers go down. And for our survey, the question that we asked students was, how many schools have you attended since kindergarten? And 34% reported of the 9th graders reported attending between 5 and 9 schools, and 6% reported attending more than 9 schools. That means 40% of the 9th graders taking the survey moved somewhere between 5 and 9 times. Frequently changing schools can negatively impact students' grades and social relationships, as we can see, which happened to myself. We found in the survey data that students who reported moving also reported high levels of verbal bullying. There are many reasons why students move from one school to another. We asked the 9th graders about these reasons. Most common were moving from a K through 8 and switching schools because one's family had moved. Another reason was the student's family decided another school would be better. Students also cited school closure as a major reason for changing schools. As you remember, some K-8s closed in 2010 and 2011, mostly on the district's east side. We looked at mobility due to school closure on the east side high schools that participated in the survey. You can see displayed on the chart that in one east side high school, 35% of the ninth graders said that their school had closed, which is reported almost as much as moving from a K-8 to high school or moving schools due to a family move. Across all the schools, among those who attended a school that had closed, 43% reported the transition was hard or very hard. Some students saw the transition due to school closure as a loss, others an adjustment, and still others as a new beginning. These numbers are important to our analysis, but they don't tell the whole story. From the ninth grade students, we heard the following voices.
All my friends were gone. I was expecting to graduate from my school. It also hurt me when I went to another school because we were all packed in one classroom. There wasn't enough resources or books to go around. It wasn't easy switching schools.
I felt sort of sad that I had to leave my friends, but it introduced me into new things.
It didn't change my life that much, but I certainly feel like I lost a big part of me.
I graduated from East High School. Most of you know that it was closed down in 2010 as a result of the transformation plan. It was announced January of my senior year. As a student body, we were devastated, upset, and confused. And as you can see, everybody had a different experience. Previous to that announcement, we were given great news that our school was very close to coming out of academic emergency. So we were headed in a very positive direction. So it was a very dramatic loss for all of the students. When the students took their OGT that March, they carried in their minds the knowledge that their school was closing. Do you think this affects OGT scores? As a senior, the situation didn't resonate well with me. Instead, it felt like my parents were being evicted from a house that I grew up in. The house in the neighborhood will never be the same to me. East High was the only school that I had spent more than 1 year attending ever since early elementary. So its closing affected my whole life.
I'd like to add 2 points here, one about policy and one about the youth researchers themselves. First, the theme of eviction was palpable in the narratives among students who face school closure. While districts are faced with financial deficits and issues related to under-enrollment or unstable enrollment as choice options increase, the weight of the scholarly evidence points to few benefits related to school closure. Instead, there's considerable evidence suggesting that school closure fails to offer a solution to student advancement, community district relations, and financial planning. This is important to consider as the current Cleveland Transformation Plan states as its second goal that it will close and replace failing schools. Policy. Now I want to talk a bit about the students themselves. It's important to note that what Jayme and several other youth did about their concern about school closure was they documented it. They inquired about it. They researched about it. They took time to understand other students' narratives. They pursued questions on its impact and their experience and worked together with Dr. Vanessa Jones, who is here, and Eric Schilling, who is not here, and produced a film, Lives in Transition, Eviction Notice. They also presented in Detroit, New York. Raymond Cook was one of the students that did that as well. What are some of the other themes that are included in the survey as well? Michael will lead us into the next theme with a story of his own ninth grade experience.
When I was in grades 6, 7, and 8, I was bullied a lot verbally. but I persevered. Afterwards, I went to New Tech West for high school. I remember walking down the hall to my class assignment, and all I could think was, this is my new start, a way for me to push back. And for the first few weeks, I was making strides and improvements. All I can say is after those 2 weeks it started, I started to have it happen again. Name calling, putting down, keeping out. In New Tech, we have what is called PBL, project-based learning, which means that we learn in groups and do projects more than learn on our own in books and stuff. And I love the idea. It gave me a chance for friendship. But sadly, I wasn't able to capitalize due to the bullying. So I started to break away, not participating or talking, really. But luckily, I did have my English teacher. He also happened to be my advisory teacher. We had small writing prompts and advisory, such as what we did over the weekend and such, just to get started. And it was really an opportunity for students to get to know each other and their teachers. But I wasn't really participating in it. Like, I would keep quiet, but I would still do the writing. And my teacher, oh, sorry about that, piece of ice. My teacher noticed my writing skills. So he asked me why I wasn't participating and helping out others that couldn't write so well but could present perfectly. And I said, I just felt like I wasn't necessary in it, that I wasn't wanted. And then he asked me if I was bullied. And all I simply said was yes. The next day, he took me to the school counselor, and we talked, excuse me. And we talked about the bullying. I did give the names of those that were doing the act. And after that day, it started to slowly decrease. I started to feel happy again. I started to participate more. And if it wasn't for my teacher reaching out, I would have never broken my shell and wouldn't even be able to present here today. Now for the data. Across the 7 schools, 9th grade students who took the survey reported that they are feeling safe in the school. To explore this issue further, we looked at other students' reports of how they get along with other students. We also looked at reports of bullying, particularly verbal bullying, because that was the most prominent among the lists. As you can see here in the slide, there is somewhat of a contradiction. While only 10% of the students reported bullying occurring in their schools always, we still care about the 52% that were saying it was sometimes or many times. This seems to differ from the finding that 76% of the students were saying that they got along. And this presented a challenge for our analysis. Our collective talked about this and considered some possibilities. We discussed these further with the 9th graders and when we reported back to them. One situation was, students feel safe getting along with those who are their friends, but when they break out of their friends, which would typically be people with the same backgrounds, they would either be the one doing the bullying or they would end up being bullied. Another one was that the conditions in the school can increase the likelihood of bullying, such as crowded hallways, students who are strangers to each other and their teachers, and also pressure outside the school, and such as in their homes and neighborhoods. Like, I just dislocated my knee last year. I'm not going to go into that. That was painful. And I'll pass it back to Anne.
Okay. In our analysis, we noticed a tension between student agency and structural conditions. While students may come to school and engage in bullying and their actions require a response, we also looked at what might lead to student alienation and conflict. In addition to school practices inside and outside the classroom, the youth have noted the role that the media plays in stigmatizing schools when student conflict flares up. A narrow analysis of these kind of events that is often conveyed through the media contributes to a misunderstanding about factors that contribute to student conflict. As Michael noted in his story, advising, or the advisory, where students come together with teachers and spend some meaningful time getting to know each other, really contributed to Michael being able to say to his teacher and his teacher being able to recognize this is going on. This is holding him back from being successful in school. We've heard about advisories in other schools that have been just as successful. Some of the students who put together the film, which you didn't get a chance to see, actually had a student advisory, and they were able to do some of that work because of the powerful work with their teachers and getting to know each other. Taylor will take a close-up look of survey data around student-teacher relationships.
59% of our ninth graders who took the survey said that they did not get along well with their teachers. However, we did find evidence in the data that suggested that teachers that encouraged critical thinking and challenged their students to work hard were valued the most among the students. One interesting finding was that more than half of the students indicated that their teachers only focus on the OGT. But those who did report getting along well with their teachers were more likely to say that their teachers focused on the OGT. This made us wonder if the students were beginning to equate good teaching with OGT prep.
Often at times I will be on a studying spree in my class, reviewing information on the OGT. Sometimes I'll feel like the curriculum was actually being ignored, and OGT preparation was the course itself. The OGT, from my perspective, was a really pressured test that will not only affect the student, but the teachers as well. The teacher and student relationship can be affected in negative and positive ways from the account of it. In terms of positive ways, teachers' efforts to focus on the OGT show students that teachers care that students pass the test, which students must do in order to graduate. However, in terms of negative ways, stress might cause students and teachers to be more edgy towards each other due to the teacher being pressured about getting good scores. Teachers are evaluated on 4 dimensions of their teaching, which accounts for 50% of their evaluation. The other 50% is the scores students get on their state tests. This can lead to teachers getting stressed along with students, which will alter the ways students and teachers will interact with each other. Teachers and students would be on edge and will react in negative ways. Not only that, but teachers' jobs would be on the line and students won't be able to do anything about it.
I know for myself that a personal relationship with a teacher can be very beneficial. I would like to speak about my 9th grade English teacher. I'll call her Miss M. So even though she had over 30 kids in her class, she took the time to get to know me and was actually the teacher that got me involved with this program. Sophomore year, however, was pretty rough. We began with an overabundance of students in lots of our classes. There had been teacher layoffs this year. We had had up to 60 kids in a class at some points. However, I found that when the teacher-student relationship began to degrade when school became more about memorization rather than learning. However, in 11th grade, I got to have Miss M again for AP English. I had already had a connection with her, so she always had challenged me to think about ideas in the classroom at a deeper level. She was always trying to improve the experience for her students. In fact, she took us to a local college to see where we would place in college-level classes, and then she'd helped us find different outlets so that we could improve these skills that would be very valuable for college. It was always hard to go from a class where I'd had a great experience with a teacher, such as this English teacher or my physics teacher, to going to a class where I didn't have a relationship with these teachers. These would link with things such as overcrowding in the classrooms or not having enough supplies. It really impacted my high school experience when I wasn't in the classes that I already enjoyed.
The survey served as a social mirror, as social psychologist Ignacio Martín-Baró speaks about, in that the students who took the survey could actually see their experience reflected back to them. And that's why we went back to the 9th grade classroom to talk with them. However, that's an incomplete analysis. That analysis of individual lived experience needs to be in conversation with the policies that impact the classroom. So part of our task in the collective was to talk about what the students were telling us, but then to look at history and to look at policy and understand how things may be impinging upon that particular experience. I had a fantastic group of doctoral students working with me. They are great, they are here, and Carly's going to talk about that.
I entered this research partnership in embodying several roles: as a doctoral student, as an educator, as a researcher, as a future policymaker. And in a true collaborative effort, I released those roles and titles and became a co-investigator among a team of researchers. Certainly I brought my own expertise to the team, yet I learned just as much, if not more, from my co-investigators. My fellow investigators on stage just shared with you some of the more quantitative-driven aspects of this project. However, at the heart of this research is a qualitative effort that allows for growth and challenges. I speak for both Allison and myself when I say we entered the urban education doctoral program at Cleveland State with some preconceived notions about the program itself, about education, education research and policy, and even CMSD. This experience has allowed us to challenge ourselves as we challenge education, policy, and research. Our participation in the doctoral program has provided us with the opportunity to engage not only within the university, but to move beyond the four walls of the classroom. However, it didn't just move us to four walls inside of a school in CMSD. Undoubtedly, experiencing the differences among these schools, from Glenville to Rhodes, was invaluable and would be eye-opening for any student teaching experience, data collection, or research study. But this was something more. This was about the students and their experiences. This PAR project has challenged us to see participants as individuals. In doing so, it allowed us to become part of a collective. We crossed boundaries of titles, hierarchies, leadership, and roles, and became part of a journey that has facilitated today's presentation. Today's exciting stop in this journey has allowed the voices of the students of CMSD to be heard and demonstrates the tremendous growth, dedication, and knowledge of its students, more so than any survey or test could measure. I'm proud to be a part of this incredible, incredible partnership and look forward to seeing where it takes us.
The youth researchers chose the title, We the Students More Than Just a Number, because they wanted to draw attention to the way in which students often see themselves and feel like they are seen by others as a number. The themes that we talked about today, we've located in national and local policy and history. We're approximately 12 years out of the enthusiastic and bipartisan signing of No Child Left Behind, 5 years from the announcement of the Race to the Top competitive grants, and 2 years from the signing by Governor Kasich of House Bill 525. It's a good point to reflect, to be thinking about these things. Each of these legislative actions has produced a set of reforms intended to address school improvement and equity. The research findings reported here reflect the experience of 9th grade students from 2012. Issues of transportation, changing schools, school closure, they all have implications for the implementation of CMSD's portfolio system, consisting of 7 principles, including school choice. Within this arrangement, waiting lists have emerged, seen by some as a sign of successful reform. We suggest from the data that waiting lists indicate that there are winners and there are also losers. And we need to pay attention to those who may fall through the cracks, who may become marginalized by the choices that are made in terms of policy, in terms of attempting to improve schools. This broader context is the essential focus of our study, and it must be part of the analysis when we look at the individual student's lived experience. As noted by the youth, the quality of student-student relationship and student-teacher relationship is informed by what happens inside and outside the classroom. And Taylor will close up for us.
To close up our presentation, I would just like to say that these were the key themes that we found: transportation, getting along between students, changing schools, and student-teacher relationships. These are the transitions that students have to go through that were challenging for some of the 9th graders that took our survey. We promised them that we would get their voices heard, and that is what we did here today. We'd like to invite you to have a discussion with us, and we look forward to hearing your thoughts and comments. Thank you.
I am so proud of our young people. They did a great job. Today, at the City Club of Cleveland, we are enjoying a special program featuring a panel discussion on students more than just a number. We will return to our speakers momentarily for our traditional City Club question and answer period. We encourage you to formulate questions for our speakers now and remind you that your questions should be brief and to the point. We welcome all of you and those joining us via our live webcast sponsored by the University of Akron. Be sure to tune in to our Friday forums on 90.3 WCPN, WVIZ PBS, 104.9 WCLV Idea Stream, or one of the many radio stations across the region and country that carry City Club programs. Television broadcasts of the City Club are made possible by Cleveland State University and PNC. This Friday, August 8th, the City Club welcomes Sari Feldman, Executive Director of the Cuyahoga County Public Library and President-elect of the American Library Institute. For more information about our upcoming and past forums, please visit us online at cityclub.org. Today's forum is part of the Education Innovation Series, funded by a generous grant from the Nordson Corporation. We thank you for your generous support. Today, we welcome guests at tables hosted by Cleveland City Council, Cleveland State University, Cleveland Transformation Alliance, Golden Ciphers, Meryl Johnson and guests, and the Urban League of Greater Cleveland. We thank you all for your support. Now, we would like to return to our speakers for our traditional City Club question and answer period. We welcome questions from everyone, including guests. Holding the microphones today are Director of Programming, Stephanie Jansky, and City Club intern, Spencer Kiesel. First question, please.
I'd like to commend all of you on the research you've done, but I'd like to elect the four of you who are students as members of the school board for a minute or two. From your research and from what you found the students are concerned about, if you could make one change, if you could implement one policy for each of you, what would it be?
Who wants to go first?
Start alphabetically at the front.
Come on, buddy, you got this. You want to pass?
I'm trying to think. It's just so many things. It's just hard to narrow it down.
True.
Michael could go, and then we could come back to you. Want to come back?
Yeah.
Okay.
Honestly, I would try to implement a shuttle for all the high schools. Honestly, if you were to talk to my principal, she would get a little, don't talk about it, kind of, because she feels that it would actually improve attendance rates and it would also help improve students' grades, that we don't have to worry about getting a ride to school.
I would go in the direction of transportation as well, and I would say a busing system. I'm very bothered by when I see 5-year-olds and 5, 6, 7-year-olds walking to school by themselves. So that would be something I would do.
I had to wait till I was 13.
I think for myself it'd be hard to choose just one policy because there's so many aspects that we cover here and that we covered in our survey. But, and I don't even know how I'd form it into a policy, but I know for myself that, like I said, those student-teacher relationships are very beneficial, and if there was just a way to break down the barriers between these students and teachers to make them be able to connect more, and like we talked about
advisory.
Yes, the advisory, and to have that implemented in more schools I think would be very beneficial.
Yeah, I'd like to put my vote into transportation because a lot of things can happen when your parents can't drop you off and you have to walk to school, and you're often put in like really unsafe scenarios. It's just a really scary situation to be in, and it should just be avoided altogether. So it would be very nice if there was like a
shuttle,
like a super shuttle,
elementary school bus. They can fly.
Yeah, it would be very nice because it's very concerning, especially from a parent's perspective as well. Like when they have to think of their child having to walk to school by themselves because their car may broke down or something. Next question.
I have a two-part question. This is concerning the OGT. Does the panel feel that the OGT was detrimental to adequate learning? And the second part, does the panel feel that the OGT is a fair measurement of learning, or could it possibly hold students back from continuing education?
Starting from the last question, from my experience and what I've noticed, it has held students back. Students that were fully capable of completing high school, but the OGT test has held them back. And then the other part of the question. You mind repeating this first part?
Sure. Does the panel feel that the OGT was detrimental to adequate learning? For instance, you said that how teachers were so focused on you passing the OGT, was everything else kind of diversified and not adequately addressed in your learning?
You mind if I give it a go?
Sure.
Okay. I think that it was important that we had what they taught us, because it was something that was going to affect their evaluation, and something that, whether we like it or not, is going to affect it if we graduate. And so that is important to have, and the knowledge that they instill in us is important to learn and to absorb. However, we spend so much time on it that it's often hard to get to focus on the other aspects of things that we need to learn. So it's important, but it can be a lot of pressure.
And I'd also like to add that we heard recently that they plan to actually stop the OGT. I don't have all the details on that, so I can't tell you exactly everything about it, but that's all I heard.
I don't necessarily feel like the OGT was detrimental, but I did feel that it was really
stressful
and pressuring, because having to take 5 different tests over all the subjects
in 5 days
feels very stressful, as in pretty much if you don't pass every single test, you will not graduate, and that's just really strenuous to really think about. Like someone has like a trouble with math and they don't pass them the first time, and then they don't pass them the next time, they just get scared and more scared until they have to finally have to take in senior year, and if they don't pass it, they don't graduate.
And actually, there is a personal experience in my family. My brother, I'm not going to say his name, keeping this confidential. He had to take the math test, I want to say 3. He never passed it? Wow.
He didn't get his diploma.
He didn't get his diploma because of the OGT. And I find that could actually help him in the future with getting a job. Most jobs require you to have a high school education, at least. And if you don't have a diploma to show it, you can't get a job, and it can end up hurting your income of financial aid or your income of just straight money at the job. And I find that as just wrong, honestly.
I think we've had discussions about the data and about testing, and the point that Taylor brought up that was so interesting to us was the piece of data that suggested that students who reported a good relationship with their teachers were more likely to also report that their teachers spent a lot of time on the OGT. So the nature of the conversation was not so much against testing, but against how testing may have become part of a normative experience with young people, where test prep may become more common in their classroom experience. Now, again, we're having conversations, we're running some inferential analyses on these, but we had never come across that piece of data before, and we found that provocative and something we need to think about.
So I know we're not supposed to make a statement, but I am incredibly proud of each of you. My question is, some of the issues you posed can't be fixed through policy. So it's not something we can do as a district. So what can I do as your superintendent to help make sure that the 5,000 educators of the Cleveland Metropolitan School District understand the issues that you're raising today?
Probably have more awareness. More people being aware definitely will have a very big impact.
I go to New Tech West, which is a newer kind of school, which we use technology mainly. Our school is technology based. We all get an assigned laptop at the beginning of the year and everything, and we do projects and everything. But then there's also advisory, where we get to know our teachers and everything. I would actually try to suggest implementing that, because it ends up putting you on a more personal level with your teacher. Like last year, I got on a personal level with my math teacher, and we ended up playing Magic the Gathering in a tournament together. And I feel that actually helped enrich my school experience, and it truly made it feel like a better place to be. I honestly love school, and I can't wait for it to start back up, honestly. And it's just seen as a place to get away from troubles so that you can go and better yourself.
I agree with La-Shaune, and I'm going to go in the awareness and involvement direction. I feel like the students aren't involved at all. So I think that's one thing that would help the whole community, is if the parents were involved, the students were involved, and some of these personal situations come into play, because it affects the whole district.
Yeah, I would just like to say that so often, like, these student voices go unheard, and so getting them out there is what's really important. And like these 9th graders that we surveyed, and our voices included, that needs to be heard by more people, because if these teachers saw that, like, oh, like, maybe I should get to know my students a little more, and maybe we should spend like more time getting to know each other, and not taking it away from the classroom experience, but adding it to. And I think that being implemented would be very beneficial.
I just wanted to note really quickly that a lot of the data that was presented today represents the collective of all seven schools, and the student researchers spent a lot of time looking at their own schools and examining, and then did the creative products based on issues specific to their schools. So in building awareness, I would definitely capitalize on your resources within the schools, which are the students who did the research. They presented it back to their schools, but
First.
maybe just to the 9th graders.
We did it to them first.
And they shared,
I
and then
think
they
you're
engaged
third.
yes, and engaged them in dialogue. And so they included the students in the discussion. But I think, you know, looking at what's unique to each school and the issues that they're struggling with at each school would be a great step.
One of the, in the open-ended data, so it's a different kind of a measure, but some of the students did mention dress code. And although it wasn't, you know, 100% saying dress code, it did come up, and we'd be remiss if we didn't mention that one of the issues was teachers spend more time addressing dress code than teaching in the classroom. So the issue of dress code, coming to some kind of agreement and consensus about what's appropriate and what's not appropriate, and we all agree on this, and let's move forward. That came up in the data as well.
I was going to add one more that just came to my head, but if the individuals who are involved in policy making actually came to the certain schools that the decisions were going to affect, and that kind of keeps the students at the center, which is the most important thing, and that person letting the student know, I'm your representative, I'm here for you.
So I just have 2 quick questions. The first one is there a way that we can gain access to the survey results? And then the second one was, how did you come about selecting the 4 areas that your research was based on?
On research results, yes, just contact us. Contact me, all right? And we can send you a summary.
Copies, summaries, emails.
As far as
faxes if you got those.
As far as the what categories we presented to you today, there was, at each school there would be like a overlying theme, like maybe the one school didn't have a lot of transportation, or this school was having lots of bullying problems. But we chose the themes that were practically universal across the schools that we surveyed, and those are the themes that we thought should be presented to you here today, which is what we got.
As well as from our own experience.
Okay. Would you guys be willing to have your school start an hour or two later and finish an hour or two later? Because there are a lot of school buses in the suburbs that are sitting around doing absolutely nothing in the late morning. And this is, I'm very serious about this because I'm contrasting what you are experiencing to what I had in the suburb, where a school bus picked me up and dropped me off at the end of my driveway every day. Okay, so there's a lot of school buses that are sitting around doing nothing in the suburbs in the late afternoon and the early evening that could be put to use in sort of a share the greater Cleveland wealth program.
Probably depend a lot on the logistics of that, probably.
You would have to bring into factor the time it would take for the buses to get from the suburbs to greater Cleveland area or all around CMSD. Then you would have to calculate the time it would take for the bus to reach from all the houses to the school itself, and it would end up just probably causing a massive pile-up, I would say.
But isn't this wonderful, Michael? That we here at the City Club, maybe this is a possibility, right?
Yeah,
so
it is.
This is the whole
I
point.
wouldn't mind starting an hour or two later.
I'm a
sleeper. I love to sleep, especially in the mornings because I have insomnia.
Especially in the mornings in physics. Anyways.
I also want to agree with Mr. Gordon and how proud I am of all of you. I personally know how much time each of you put into this research project. Saturday mornings when your friends were home sleeping or watching cartoons or having a good time, you were down at Cleveland State working on this project. My question, and I'd like to hear from each of the students briefly, why did you stick to it? Why did you even become involved, and why did you continue to go back and work on this project?
Let's go reverse alphabetical.
Reverse alphabetical this time. Well, I know for myself that in high school I've had a good experience and bad experiences, and seeing as this was a way to help future students have good experiences, I want those students to get to have what I know could be a great experience for them, and so I wanted to do whatever I could to make sure that that could be carried on into the future students.
Why? I'll start with why I first began the program. As I said earlier, I was a student who was moved around a lot and often uprooted. So I was looking for an opportunity to feel a part of something, and this program, Lives in Transition, definitely helped me to accomplish that. And the reason why I'm still here and participating, I think, is because I love Cleveland and I love CMSD, and it's something that has shaped my whole life, the good experiences and the bad experiences. And I said earlier, it has made me become resilient. Yeah, and I love Generation Y.
I would have, well, to add on to that, with them moving around and everything, I would say it would also give the students roots and let them actually grow, sort of like a, I want to say tree. But I have to say the reason I got into this would be I personally had an amazing high school experience with my teachers and everything. I did experience the bullying in 9th grade, but I also had some friends. And I know exactly how it feels to be in your own little group. But I do branch out, and I try to reach out to new people. And the reason why I got on this is because I want other people to experience a good time in high school, and in school in general, just as I have. I've had wonderful teachers my entire school life, yet there's also people that are complaining about the exact same teachers being mean, strict, a-holes even, and it's just like, they're not. You just have to get a chance to know them. And the main reason I'm sticking with it is because I care for schools, I love schools, and I just want people to have a good experience because it's what will end up shaping you in how you can be, how you can get a job, and it's pretty much just the stepping stones to life.
I really love the interaction of working with a team that was diverse from different schools, all working together to pretty much like come together and get things done and see it get done. It's just a really great feeling of just like being around people with the same ideals as you and is willing to put forward the work and effort to get those things done. It's just a great experience, pretty much, and that's why I loved it. That's why I kept coming back, because I felt like I was getting things done with working with a team. I love my team. My team, we all came together. We just got stuff done.
Just a side note, I will let you know there were 25 of us at the start, but some of them kind of fell off. So we are, well, in Taylor's and La-Shaune's group, there were 25. I don't know how many were.
Thank you, Michael. Appreciate that. Today at the City Club, we have been enjoying a special program featuring a panel discussion on We the Students, More Than Just a Number. Thank you, panelists. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. This forum is now adjourned.